All right, let's get to the Denver Broncos. They dealt with a lot of bull last year. That was Russell Wilson's performance. The highs were supposed to be incredibly high, but for several reasons, they weren't. Well, get this. New offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, he is now arrived. He helped develop Justin Herbert. He said the team is really happy with Wilson's progress as he attempts to bounce back from the worst season of his career. Just 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Family, this is a true story. Shady, myself, Joy Taylor, we were hanging out watching the Broncos Colts. I believe it was week 4 of the NFL season. We were having a grand old time. The drinks were being drunk. The food was being eaten. Everything was great except for the game on television. Russell Wilson was atrocious. The Broncos were atrocious. It was one of the worst moments of my life watching that game. Regardless of the company, it truly was that pitiful. Shady, the lows were low for Russ last year.
It was low.
What?
It was low. But
I mean, it was a very conflicting experience, that memory, because it was like fun hanging out, but it was so bad.
It was
I had better things to do.
So you weren't in Atlanta.
It was week 5, and the game was so bad that I've even forgotten or tried to forget the day. Shady, what would success? Because the Broncos desperately need success from Russell Wilson. This is my favorite topic of the day. What would success look like for Russ? What's a successful season?
Just be the old Russ that we remember. Just be that Russ. I mean, it's funny when we had this conversation right today in a production meeting, and the question came. I'm like, wow. Looking at all the numbers, like 16 touchdowns, 11 picks.
Not good.
Bad. So my thing to show me some success this year would be, first of all, you got Sean Payton, one of the best offensive minds in football. Mm-hmm. Be the old Russ. Out of 10 years with the Seahawks, you got to the playoffs 8 times, right, and win games. I want to see that Russ. I want to see the efficient. Breaking tackles, hitting guys deep, having fun. What's the slogan? Letting Russ cook. We want to see that. We want to see cooking, and we want to see some wins.
Shady, what's more important, though? Is it more important for you to see the Denver Broncos win games because that's what Russell Wilson did? But Russell Wilson also balled for the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, 30-plus touchdowns was a given for Russ. Yeah. So when you say you want to see the old Russ, you want to see the winning Russ, most importantly, or the balling Russ?
I just think about, like, the old Russ. He was winning games, and he was putting stats up. First was winning games, then it went to putting stats up. So my thing is we have a mixture of that. Now, long as they're winning games, they're in a tough division, first of all. They are playing in the same division with the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. Let's keep that in mind. And I just think that if we can get Russ to go out there and win these games, they pay him a lot of money, not for stats.
True.
Acho.
True.
They pay him to come in there. We want them same results, some same wins. He's been in 2 Super Bowls with the Seattle and the 1-1. We want that. Denver was known for winning championships, at least going. So I got to see the old Russ, man.
Great point. Joy, what do you need to see? What's success for Russell Wilson?
I think he has to make the playoffs. He's got to make the playoffs. I know that sounds a little extreme considering he went 4-11 last year. But on average, there are 6 new playoff teams per year. So there's going to be some teams that we think are locks to make the playoffs, who've done a lot of really exciting moves, who are, for whatever reason, maybe it's a big injury, the offensive line falls apart, you got some controversy, who knows? Something's going to happen. It happens every single year, where somebody will not make the playoffs and someone else is going to go on a run and make the playoffs that we didn't necessarily expect. Mm-hmm. Why shouldn't it be Denver? It kind of has to be Denver. You brought in Sean Payton. You have Russell Wilson. Keep in mind, outside of the money, what they gave up for him,
A lot.
So the expectations are high and they should be high. And based off of how bad it was last year, you have to prove that you were the guy that they brought in here, that they gave all that up for, that you asked out of Seattle to be. So they've done everything that they can to shore it up. The excuses are off the table now. Maybe there was, some stuff that happened last year we didn't know about. Okay, all that's gone now. Sean Payton is there, and Sean Payton is a made man. We know what he can do with any kind of quarterback talent. So I think they have to make the playoffs this year.
It's funny, Slick, my bar for Russ might be the lowest at the desk. Success for me for Russell Wilson, I don't care if you make the playoffs. I don't care if you win a playoff game. Just have a winning record. The reason it's that low, if you will, I always think, Shady, about, hey, who else at the party? I always think about what company am I keeping? If anybody ever asked me to come on a show, asked me to speak at a conference, asked me to be on a podcast, first thing I do is look up who has spoke before. Because I want to know what's the company of the people I'm keeping. Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence. Somebody's not making the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It might be Rodgers, $50 million. It might be Lamar, most highest average annual value right now. It might be Deshaun, $230 million guaranteed. It might be Mahomes, $450 million contract. It might be Herbert's going to end up being a top 3 highest paid player. It might be Burrow going to end up being a top 3 highest paid player. It might be Josh Allen, finished finals in the MVP voting 2 of the last 3 years. Somebody not making it.
Yeah.
So even if I'm Russ and I don't make it, I'm going to be there with Lamar Jackson. He ain't make it too. Josh ain't make it either. Oh, Joe, you ain't make it? Pat, what you doing here? So I'm okay if Russ doesn't make the playoffs, deeming it successful, if he has a winning record. Low bar, I know, but it's about what company is he keeping for me.
You might as well do the valet. Don't even come to the party. Just do the valet.
It's simple for me. At the postseason press conference, when Sean Payton goes up to the podium, he says, Russell Wilson is my quarterback. That is the bar. Because going into the season, what have we said? Like, Russell Wilson has to, new regime. Like, they're not all in on Russell Wilson. He needs to prove that he can be the Russell Wilson of Seattle. So whatever that is, whether it's a winning record, whether it's making the playoffs, whether it's winning a playoff game, it really is what Sean Payton thinks this team is capable of with a capable quarterback, and whether Russell Wilson fills that void. And if Sean Payton is all in on Russell Wilson and says, this is my guy going forward, then that's successful for Russell based on what he's facing going into this season. Because he has to prove, unlike when he first got the deal and got sent to Denver, he needs to prove that he is their quarterback of the future. So for me, that's what a successful season would be.
Shady, what would that take? Because, you know, coaches are very finicky with who they love and who they hate. They hate you one day, they love you the next. You win a game for them, they love you. If you lose a game for them, they hate you. What would it take for Sean Payton to say that at the end of the season, Russ is my quarterback of the future?
Well, first of all, I mean, they got some money tied up into him, right? It's not like a regular position. You could just get rid of him. But he has to play efficient. I think Sean Payton's one of them guys, he's serious, right? I think he wants to win. He's a super competitor. I mean, you see him on the sideline when he's mic'd up, and if you know him personally, I mean, he's always fired up. He always wants to compete. Like, him going to that division, I knew he was a competitor just from knowing him, but even more of a competitor going there. Andy Reid's there? Cool. I want to be there, too. Like, most coaches want to do that, right? Because he has a resume to you know, you know what I'm saying? So he had to protect. But the thing is that scares me with this question you just asked me is, like, if Russ doesn't play good and he plays close, not even how he played, but close to last year, it's hard for me to see Russ remaining to be there, though. Right? Because how can you be that bad twice?
Right.
And Sean Payton ain't going, we trying to win games. If we can't win with your play, you won't be here. And I can see Sean Payton doing that. Now, they'll find a way with the contract. You know, they always find a way to remove that type of deal, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to see.
Joy, do you see, is there a world where Russ is moved off of after this year?
Of course. Of course. I mean, there's been contracts that people can't believe were even signed that were moved off of 2 years later.
True. That's true.
Like 2 years back-to-back of the play that we saw last year, I mean, why would you keep him? Honestly, like it'd be irresponsible of you at that point. Because one down season, okay, like maybe Nathaniel Hackett was that bad. Maybe it was a bad environment. You weren't vibing. You need some sage, whatever. But now you have a guy in Sean Payton that's proven, not just with quarterbacks, but capable of building a culture in a place where there is none. So Sean Payton isn't going to be the one that's questioned, nor should he be, because his resume is solid. Right. Russ's resume is like this right now. It was that bad, which is hard to do. He really showed something that was pretty remarkable. We were talking about them being in the Super Bowl, coming off of Brady going somewhere, immediately winning a Super Bowl, Stafford going somewhere, immediately winning a Super Bowl. We were talking about the Denver Broncos like we're talking about the Jets right now. Oh, they're just a quarterback away. They got all this talent.
I was saying
they're a team that's right there. All they need is a quarterback. Give them Russ. Here comes Russ, and it's a disaster. So yeah. I actually disagree. I think that he has to make the playoffs because all those other guys, and you're right, somebody
ain't going.
Really good
Two of them
is not going to the playoffs. But the difference is those really, really good players have consistently been in the playoffs. They are coming off, almost all of them, off of really good seasons. There's a reason why these guys have been paid. We thought there was nothing that could happen to Russ's resume or reputation that could take him down. Oop. Those other guys are in a different position. If they don't make the playoffs, they're not going to play like Russ did to not make the playoffs. It'll be because it was the end of the season and he played in, and it's not going to look like that.
This is the line that really speaks to me. Broncos offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi. He said Wilson is used to doing things a certain way, and we're presenting a new way of doing things.
I don't like that.
Which says, we got our plan. Mm-hmm. If Russell fits into our plan, we're cool. But this ain't Russell world anymore. That's what it was last year. So, again, that's why I put the bar at, is he meeting what Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi want from their quarterback? That's going to determine whether this is a successful season for Russell Wilson.
I don't like that, though.
Why?
I mean, it's the teacher old dog new tricks. When Aaron Rodgers and LaFleur was going at it, he said, I can't turn off 14 years. I can't turn it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can't turn that off. When you bring a guy like Russell Wilson there, we know who I am. You watch my tape, you my good and my bad, you know what it is. Mm-hmm. So to tell me we want to do something new, I don't like that. I like more of let's gel it together. When I was with the Bucks, when we won the championship in 2020,
Yep.
Been time. They were trying to make Tom Brady fit into the Bruce Arians offense. Yeah. Now, Tom is so good, okay, I can do this if you want it, but this is not who I really am. You want me to throw the ball 50 times a game? You want me to throw it 60 yards in the air? That's not who Tom Brady is, and he's vocal about that. But when we start really gelling and winning games and getting to that playoffs and winning Super Bowl, it's because, okay, listen, I'm Tom Brady. Let's take some of this Tom. Let's take some of this Bruce Arians. There's nothing in here. And you put it together. You put it now, we're working together. Mm-hmm. So some of your new stuff, but some of my old stuff, we put together. And now that's what makes a efficient offense. I don't like hearing, oh, look, I know what he was doing before, but this is what we're doing now. I don't like that.
Here's what's hard for me, though, Joy, in thinking about the whole conversation. The most interesting thing for me is a good to really good team this year, maybe two of them won't make the playoffs in the AFC.
Okay.
Like a good to really good team won't make the playoffs. I can see a 10 or 11 win team not making the playoffs.
We talk.
And I don't know if I can condemn them for doing so. It was fascinating, Shady. We have the same experience. 2013, we went 10-6 for the Eagles. We made the playoffs. 2014, we went 10-6, same record, and we missed the playoffs. Nothing was different. 2013 went 10-6. Shady was a rushing leader, went to the playoffs. 2014 still had a really good offense. Shady was still top flight in rushing. We missed the playoffs. Third that year. It was weird because I was like, at the end of the game, we were all like, all right, y'all, we'll see you next season. But I was like, but last year we had the same record.
And we had a home playoff game, too.
Home playoff game.
Do you think that a 10-win team is going to miss the playoffs?
Absolutely.
Because there were two teams
right?
in the playoffs with 9 wins.
Correct.
And then a whole lot of 8 and 7s, and then a 4 and 3 win team in the AFC. So
here's why. I think this year on the AFC side, I think the Steelers are going to be better. I think the Dolphins are going to be better. I think the Jets are going to be better by record. I don't know about by team. I think by record. Steelers ain't having a losing record.
I think two.
Right. Steelers don't have a losing record, no.
So Steelers are going. I think are going to get to 9 or 10.
Okay.
I think the Dolphins are going to stay at 9 or 10.
I think Dolphins will.
I think the Jets. Remember, they went into December with 7 wins. I think they're going to get themselves to 10. I think the Jags are going to get themselves to 10.
I mean, who's taking all these losses? Somebody got to take the losses.
They're going to cannibalize each other. The NFC for starters, but because remember, this year the NFC East has to face the AFC East.
Yeah.
Last year the Cowboys, the Eagles, and all them.
Is a 10-win season a really good season when you have 17 games?
I think if you're 10 and 7,
has that changed the conversation about having 10 wins?
I think you're good. I think 11.
But you're saying really good teams are not going to make the playoffs. I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Meaning, here's what's fascinating. The Ravens, the Browns, the Steelers, and the Bengals. 2 of them teams probably not getting in. Which 2?
I would pick probably the Steelers.
But the Steelers going to win 10 in my mind.
There's also, when you look at the course of a season, a lot can happen that we are not prepared for. Like we know there's going to be some major injury that's going to completely derail somebody that we thought had the potential to be really good. But would you be surprised if Jacksonville dropped off the map next year? No offense, Jacksonville.
In their division, I would be a little surprised.
Again, there are six, on average, 6 new teams in the playoffs every single year. There's going to be some turnover of teams that we thought were really good and on paper right now are on a Super Bowl contending level.
But here's what's fascinating. Y'all tell me, and we're going to do this with y'all, the viewers, which team isn't winning 10? Steelers.
Question mark.
They might not.
They might not.
Ravens.
They're going to win 10.
Bengals.
10.
They should win 10.
Chiefs.
10.
Come on, 12.
Chargers.
Question mark. Come on, let's keep it real. Keep it real.
Bills.
We gotta say yes.
Bills, yes.
Dolphins.
Question mark.
They won,
Question
they
mark,
won,
but
they won 9 games last year.
And Montour was up and down with injuries.
He was.
Yeah.
But still.
He might be. Hold up. But you know what? I want to say he's going to be better because he's going to be healthy, but we don't know that.
Yep.
Browns,
No.
Jets.
Better.
They
Better is 2 more
Okay.
wins, and that's 9.
But they had 8.
Broncos.
They won 7
They won
last
7 last year. Broncos.
They won 4 games.
Like, think about
No.
this.
But I truly
5
think
games
that
last year.
I don't see the Broncos just, and I love Sean
Payton.
Payton, but they're not going to turn it all the way around.
And I
that.
agree. I agree.
Like, whoa.
I agree. But here's what we just established collectively and with y'all at home. 4 teams we just said for sure are going to win 10. We just said 4 will for sure win 10. That means of the Broncos, of the Browns, of the Steelers, of the Chargers, of the Jags. One of those teams, or the Dolphins, those are all our maybes. I think 3 other teams win 10. You feel me? Like, we just said 4 for sure. I think 3 of those 6 win in 10.
But what do they look like at 10? So the question with Russ is, you're talking about winning or stats or what it convinces Sean Payton to keep him. If they're winning because they're running the ball really well and they're in these low scoring, defensive battles, a couple turnovers that save the game. Like, this is why we have to play the games. Because on paper, it could look like it will be one way, and then they play a completely different way. The Lions, we were just talking about them, are a great example of that. They shouldn't be in these games, but they play hard. You have to beat the Lions. And so that's why those games look the way that they do. How it actually looks and plays out is as important as the record when it comes to if Russell Wilson is going to end up being there for the future.
Full circle, then I think I'm leaning to Slick's point of I don't really know if it has to do with wins and losses. If Russ plays well, they're going to be good. You know what I mean? They'll be better. But I do think it comes down to Sean Payton at the end of the season being like, is he good enough to win with? And if he's good enough to win with,
then we can work on everything else.
We can figure everything else out.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.